Every rustle is a gaze, every shadow, a watcher. The woods had no edges here, only an endless sprawl of towering pines that scratched the ashen sky with skeletal fingers, their trunks cloaked in moss that exhaled damp, earthy musk into the trembling air. The forest floor pulsed beneath my boots, spongy with rotten secrets, a quilt woven from needle-sharp pine leaves and brittle twigs that crunched with brittle crispness beneath each cautious step. An oppressive silence hung, a breath withheld, a heartbeat paused, only punctuated by the faint, almost imperceptible sighs of wind threading itself through the thicket, a ghostly tongue licking the bark like a patient predator. I moved deeper, my senses entangled in the twilight's slow bleed, as shadows spilled from tree trunks and pooled like black ink across the leaf-littered earth, pooling and stirring with a life all their own. The scent twisted, a pungent swirl of pine resin, damp wood smoke, and something fouler beneath it all, a sour sweat of decayed leaves and hollow promises. It reminded me of childhood walks with my father among firs, before he disappeared into the silence of his own mind, leaving behind only fragments of laughter and the iron tang of fear I now tasted on my tongue. A sudden rustle snapped through the stillness, sharp and brittle, like the crack of thin bones under pressure, and the hair along my nape prickled, trembling under invisible eyes. Somewhere far, a raven croaked, its voice a cracked chalice spilling dark warning into the encroaching dusk. I stopped, breath shallow, heart a frantic tap dance reverberating against ribs that felt suddenly fragile, as if the forest itself had pressed a cold palm over my chest. The trees seemed to lean closer then, their branches knotted into grotesque, grasping hands swaying in a slow, mocking cadence. The path, once clear, now fragmented into a labyrinth of shadows and tangled roots clutching at my ankles like the desperate hands of memories I had tried to bury. The pines whispered, low and relentless, names and half-heard laughter threading through the branches like spider silk, cold and unyielding. Names I thought forgotten. I recalled a fragment then, a glimmer of my mother's voice, brittle as autumn leaves torn by a gust, carried faintly on the damp air. Do not trust the silence, it hears. The words pricked my skin, raw and urgent. But who was watching here? The wind, the trees, or something else? Something stitched from the shadows between branches. The underbrush quivered, and a figure emerged. Slender, elongated beyond human, its form blurred as though sketched in ink running with rain. Eyes like dark hollows blinked slowly, reflecting my own panic with a cool, predatory calm. You wander too close, it whispered, voice a brittle rustle like dead leaves against stone. My throat clenched. The woods watch, and the pines remember. The specter stepped aside, and I saw the earth beneath was etched with countless footprints that twisted and doubled back, impossible in number and dimension, like the skin of reality itself peeling and folding beneath my gaze. I tried to run, but my feet rooted themselves, caught in a snare woven of moss and silence. The forest grew louder, not with sound, but presence, thick and suffocating as the damp, heavy scent of rot that seeped into my flesh. The wind carried whispers now, tangled voices layered like a chorus of despair. The crunch of leaves behind me quickened, though I dared not turn. Every nerve screamed taut. The weight of unseen eyes pressed like stones into my spine. Time fractured then. Seconds cracked and bled together as shadows stretched and folded, the world folding inward like a decaying flower wilting beneath a pale moon. The watcher's gaze pierced deeper, tendrils of cold seeping through my skin, fracturing the fragile barricade of reality. Visions flared, twisted memories of laughter turning to screams, faces consumed by darkness, love writhing into loss beneath swaying boughs. I tasted iron again, acrid and choking, as if the forest exhaled grief through my mouth. Remember, the voice hissed, a spectral serpent coiled around my heart. We are the roots feeding on forgotten pain. The ground beneath me pulsed with a malevolent rhythm. Thorns burst from bark like skeletal fingers, clutching and piercing the air as the forest exhaled a rage older than breath. The watch's form unraveled, dissolving into 1,000 whispers and shadows that danced on the edge of madness. With a strangled cry, I broke free, stumbling through the thinning trees as branches lashed like whip cracks, scraping my skin raw, tearing at the fabric of my sanity. The pines thudded with heartbeats, relentless and unforgiving, and I fled, dragged by voices that slithered through the cold night like worms beneath fragile earth. Outside the twisted woods, dawn bled pale and hesitant through fractured clouds. The watching ceased, but its echo lingered, imprinted beneath my skin, a slow, crawling shadow that tangled with every thought, every breath. The forest had marked me, a living wound etched in whispers, cold to the bone, forever watching from the periphery of waking and dream. The woods wait still, their eyes unblinking in the twilight's hollow. And I I carry their gaze with me, a shard of shadow lodged deep where light cannot reach. Dare to listen to the rustling pines. Share your own encounters with unseen watchers, and descend deeper into the forest's murmuring shadows.